What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday. Welcome to
Word.
Optimized Drone live stream. We got some cool people over here with us today.
Yep. I
we
can't do
got,
that. Which way do I point? Where do I point?
I
There we
know.
go. All right. My camera's all Willy Wonka out. I don't know what the hell.
what's up, Jeff
Um,
Poole? How are you doing tonight?
so Jeff Poole he messaged me just right before the show. He wanted to let Zach know that he's working on a printed Whoop prop version of this. Yeah. So Jeff
Jesus.
Poole, this show is more to discuss the possibilities of this, and we do think it'll work. It's designed for a very specific type of flying, but it'll work. I do not think 3D printed Whoop size props will work due to the fact that the print lines themselves are already causing enough noise and issue on 5-inch, let alone Whoop. And the TinyWhoop ones that I did see somebody do, they were pretty good, but they were still noisy as shit.
We can talk about that. There's
Yeah.
reasons why.
But it's there's also like there's only one way to really print it on a 3D printer, and that causes a lot of drag through just those little millimeter lines. Like, so that's one thing to consider, guys. If you do resin printing, you'll still deal with the same situation, just a lot less. The only real way to do it is injection mold, but that comes with its own complications, which we'll discuss as well. So, yeah. So for those who don't know, guys, to my right, I guess, your guys left, is Jubal, and Jubal is Wiz FPV, as we all know him, and he's been testing a few of these different toroidal prop designs. So I figured I'd have him come on and hang out with us tonight. And above us, you all know and love Mr. Zach Carrizales, and we all know his knowledge of props and motors and how all this works. So I wanted to get him in on the conversation too, because from my understanding, toroidal props are generally engineered for hydrodynamics, not aerodynamics. And that's despite the fact that hydrodynamics and aerodynamics are very similar in physics, that will also pose a problem which we will need to adjust in terms of design. I think Zach's got the right way to go about it. What's up, Funk Dat? Carlton in the house, Barbarian in the house as well. What's up? I think Zach, you've got a couple designs of toroidal props that are more for aerodynamics as opposed to the old school boat motor style, correct?
Yeah. I guess I can start off with kind of what I know about the subject if you want.
Go for it.
We can go from there. So the MIT this MIT research it's not exactly new. They won a very prestigious award, a design award, and that's when they went and like, hey, we got to get more funding, and told everyone about it. Right, that's where you got the YouTube video that a lot of people saw. But I first read about this like almost 2 years ago, maybe a little bit over, and then I first found out about the Sharo propeller, which is a boat motor, way before that, like three and a half years ago. But I know it's much older than that. Their patent's actually really cool if you guys like to dig into that stuff. Super neat. But yeah, I guess the basis of it, we can talk about kind of the basics of this is there's two key aspects of what they're doing. Air and water are both fluids. They're just different types, and they have different viscosities. And with that, different characteristics of drag, and so the propellers that you are designed for them are designed differently. And then the other aspect of that is these propellers were designed for a very particular small operating envelope. So they were designed to hover and, so like endurance and thrust. That's what those propellers were designed for. To take that and then go, one, let's 3D print them. And then two, let's apply them to an entirely different dynamic system like our FPV freestyle quads. It's like a recipe for, hey, give it a go, see what happens. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with that, and I don't think they're necessarily going to be all that useful in our little niche freestyle FPV world all that much. But in terms of the cinematic and cinema whoop sort of world, I do think that it could end up being beneficial due to the fact that it will end up being
once
more
once there's a tested and proven design.
Yes.
Like Zach said, I mean, it's a kind of a cut and place test of theory apply right now, right? There's a lot of different parts of the design phase, and one, it has to be manufacturable.
Yes.
Right. So if we're talking injection molding, you're talking about you have to have specific designs at specific angles to release from an injection mold, and ideally you want a 2-part injection mold and not a multi 4, 5, 6-part injection mold, because then it becomes really maintenance intensive and you can't get as much out.
Cheap versus expensive. That's the biggest thing. I don't think anyone wants to pay $20 to $30 per prop.
Right. I heard people complaining about that when X Class was becoming a big thing. So
don't get me started. I have
or anything else. So
big old beast class.
So, but if you what it's been proven on, what this design has been proven on, like Zach mentioned, is the Sharo propeller.
Yeah.
Right. So the Sharo propeller, has been around for quite a while. I remember when I had my boat back in probably 2007, 2008 ish. These were first coming out in the boating world. Maybe it was a little later, but they were first coming out in the boating world. We were starting to see them in the boating magazines, but they weren't really available. And even right now, it's like $5,000.
Hey Matt,
one of those.
Marcel and a bunch of other people are asking if it flies. Yes, guys, we've been seeing.
Here. Matter of fact, I've got.
Put up.
I've got Jubal
Yeah.
video right here. So he recruited those. And now you said that's PLA, correct?
This is PLA, yes. I feel like these props, if they were balanced and made properly, other than being a little bit underpowered for the design that they are, I feel like they would fly just fine.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about like carbon nylon or something like that as far as 3D printing tests? I'm just trying to think of like what would be the most durable material because
a friend of mine printed a set of smaller ones, 3-inch size in nylon, and I can't break it with my hands. So
okay, what were you showing there, Zach?
Tech. So I'm a big fan of Tolman 3D.
Right.
They make a lot of good material and have for a very long time. One of my favorites is their Tech G, which is a PETG blend, and it just has lots of durability, but not quite the same level of stiffness, because PLA is actually extremely stiff, but because of that, it's also brittle. Nylon can be extremely ductile, but positive, have enough toughness as well. But what people love about nylon is it has just awesome interlayer cohesion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I've got some Tallman nylon. That's the only nylon I use currently, and I don't use it a whole lot even now. I got it for some pod designs and stuff like that, but then I ended up for like for the Pixie. The Pixie was small enough. TPU is plenty durable enough for a pod for that.
So, do you like if we took these props right here, I could actually see them working rather well. But if you notice, they have what a lot of people are doing is what a lot of people don't realize is if you cut your propellers, and I've done this. In fact, I did this about 3 years ago when I was designing for the Aussie props. I took some of my favorite, 5 and 6 inch and 4 inch propellers, cut them down at different lengths and different thicknesses, and then I at the time had access to a really high end microscope or optical imaging system for work, and and I got cross sections of them and were able to measure a lot of that and understand what airfoils they were using. But what people don't realize is even modern day props, 60, 70 years ago, they would use the same airfoil and then twist. So it would have like 42 degrees from flat, right? 42 roughly. And then it would start to twist down to about roughly 10 to 14 degrees, depending on the application. And they would use the exact same airfoil, except just shrink the cord length being the tip to tail. A couple of those reasons, but with modern propellers and for freestyle propellers, they actually use a multitude of different airfoils. In fact, on the Aussie props, I used 3 different airfoils. One really close to the hub, a different one about 75% of the blade, and then a slightly different one at the very tip to get characteristics. Because
you're talking about the wood props you did, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that.
I think I still have those on one of my brushed whoops.
Yeah, I mean, they work. There's, I now think there are some more interesting propellers on the market now for that scale, but I haven't been doing a whole lot of that design work lately. But with these, if someone would just apply a different airfoil and give it like variable twist throughout the prop, what you'd get, and also because you're having to deal with weight. Weight's a big deal for props. You're spinning fast. So if you reduce that weight, and the best way to do that is actually reducing the cord length, right? Because it's a pretty wide blade there, is just reduce that so you can get that a little thinner. And then add a little bit different airfoil at the root or near the hub, and a little bit different airfoil at the tip. I actually could see these working. I don't know what flight characteristics they would actually give us, but that's the beauty of freestyle and quadcopters is people use them for all sorts of things. So as long as you have a purpose and they're designed with that, and you have a hypothesis and you test it towards that, and you tell everyone, hey, these were designed for this specific reason, then they can't, judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've seen people try to freestyle with those 5 and 6 blade Cineprops.
Yeah.
It's again, specific designs for specific things. And, I guess my thing is if they were excellent and efficient for air, I think we would have seen them as airplane propellers already, which we haven't. I was unable to find any airplane propeller.
Kind of. They just encase them. They put it in a duct.
Well, in a turbine. I mean,
it's much easier to do that than to spin extra material at the tip.
Right. So, I mean, let's show Jubal's video here real quick.
Yeah.
I see that flex with those new Goggle 2s on there.
Oh, I love them. So good. So good.
Are they? I keep hearing they're nice.
I don't know if anyone can hear the audio, but this is just me explaining that I'm going to do a hover test before I actually put the goggles on.
So can you walk us, like, what was the noise? Because I was trying to hear a difference. Walk us through what these sounded like.
They sounded to me exactly like a set of 6-inch bi-blade props.
So that
Yeah,
lower,
so that
lower
whirring sound.
Yeah.
The loud like macro quad whirring sound that you would hear. Yeah.
Yeah, on a video, if you listen to the punch outs that I'm doing, which I was able to do a few of them before the props exploded, but
Yeah.
yeah, it sounded like exactly like bigger bi-blade props.
To me, it almost sounded like a 5-inch ducted quad. It had that drone, the low pitch drone of a ducted quad. I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They flex they're a bit flexible, so I imagine some of the resonance is coming from that too. But this is on a KISS quad, so KISS is a little more susceptible to vibrations and stuff. So
yeah, but you've got the AOS, which is supposed to help with that a little bit, right?
Yeah,
supposedly.
But you can see
props can do a lot.
Yeah, you can see in the footage, especially during the punch outs, how it
the jello,
yeah.
I bet it would be worse without having both ends coming together. Like they're kind of balancing each other out a little bit.
Yeah. So it's in the video. It's hilarious. It's ironic. As soon as I said, I wonder what I'm going to have to do to break these props. As soon as I said that, one snapped. Right, the quad went down.
Apparently, nothing. You just fly it.
Yeah. And again, at this moment, I was completely shocked that I was able to do any of these moves at all with these PLA props. But
again, these aren't designed for acceleration and quick acceleration and deceleration. So
there it goes.
There it goes.
At least you got lucky and it crashed near you,
right?
I always it would have been down beyond the second soccer goal down there on the end.
Yeah, and it upon impact, all four of them were completely disintegrated, all ripped off, and only the hub was left of them.
Yeah. And that's, to me, that's not too surprising, but
yeah. But you can, in 1 second, you can see.
Yeah, the couple things that I've seen in common with all the videos on these propellers and that I've seen. One is that they usually will hover until they fall apart, or they'll fall apart during the flight test. But it's proof of concept. It works, right?
Yep. And like I said before, I feel like if they were in a more durable material and smooth, like not printed, injection molded, I feel like there's actually something there. It didn't feel, other than being maybe a little bit underpowered, I didn't feel like there was anything that I couldn't do freestyle wise with these props. So it's there.
And one of the I was wondering if you could find a good way for resin printing them and you could harden them. I was wondering if they would.
I saw someone printed them in resin and it was very smooth, but on the bottom side where the support was for it, that's going to be a mess. So there's, I don't know. I'm not really familiar with resin printing, but I imagine if it's as smooth as it looked on the picture on the top, if they could do that all the way around, that would be something too.
Yeah.
So this is Quad Movers video.
Oh, it looks
I don't know why he made the hub so massive.
He made the hub so big.
I posted up Quad Movers video on the page, and one of my local pilots, Scott Lee York, who doesn't really know my personal history with Quad Mover, was like, dude, he's amazing at LOS. I love how this flies, but I really loved his 8-blade prop one. And I just go,
Damn did
I
it
was
first.
like, yeah, that was the start of hashtag Dan did it first. I was like, I was at war with some trolls for that one. All his fans went after me because I did it 2 weeks before he did.
And now, Zach, you were talking about making the hub so big, and that was one of the
Jubal,
things that I had.
Jubal was saying something about that.
Well, you can tell looking at closer at his design that his hub is huge.
Yeah.
And he actually beefed up where the blades come off of the hub. There's it's a taper that's wider and then tapers down into the actual blade itself. So I think that's maybe how he made it more durable.
Well, he made the blades connect to each other a little bit. I don't know if you saw here. We'll go through. I'll show you the front part here. He kind of did a little quick run of how he designed it here.
He caused an overlap. Yeah.
Oh, you see that? See, he added a little bit extra to the hub there that fans out.
Right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
A little bit of fillet.
Is that a hollow gap or is that a fill?
I couldn't tell. It was odd.
It looks hollow in the print over here on the left.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Because the air gap might add some structural integrity on there. The arching in the air gap.
There's another way you could add structural rigidity to it. Add what's called camber towards the middle of the hub. Camber does this. So here's like a flat piece. Camber's this. Adding just a little bit of arc in the middle of the cord might be able to add a little bit of structural rigidity. But Matt, would you do us a favor and look up the actual MIT, the paper that they released with it? There's two really important graphs that I want to clarify with this, because it actually has something to do with how these actually reduce the noise. Yeah, so go to that second page there. So right there, those two graphs are actually really, really important. They explain everything having to do with what we're seeing. So on the left one, you have your traditional biblades. And what you notice is you have these large, gigantic swings between low pressure and high pressure, the little spikes there. And then on the other side, you have much, much less. You still have a couple of resonant frequencies where you're having massive spikes in between,
around 130, and you get a couple around 300, 350.
Yeah, but you notice is they're much farther apart, and at the same time they're not reaching those really, really high, higher pressure points. But one of that is actually having to do with how the best simulations have shown propellers, how that turbulence comes off of them. So in certain characteristics, they don't just it's not just kind of all the time, it's waves. They're like waves coming off, and depending on different points in your throttle and the RPMs, the aerodynamics of that area on the propeller is it separates. Let me grab a quad here. As as this one here. So as this comes around, it's coming around. What you'll notice is at slower RPMs, this area on the prop, is pretty distributed. It's making a lot of different, thrust and lift across the prop. But as you speed up, you start to walk the pressure pocket all the way out here. So at normal flying RPMs, you are tips, the last like 50% of the blade to 30% of the blade is producing all of your lift. Not many people realize that, but so if you were to adjust, and my guess is if you were to adjust the angle of attack and the tilt, the actual tilt towards the end of the blade, we'd probably see a little bit different characteristics at higher RPMs, because when you punched, Jubal, what I actually saw was not the prop exploding because of certain characteristics. It was exploding because the air, in my opinion, the air likely separated. So the separation is basically when it goes from sticking and sliding along the blade to coming off and then creating turbulence.
Okay.
When that separates, what can happen is it'll roll off like waves. And that makes this odd flexibility. And that's where you get that, the PLA not being super or being too stiff and can't flex with it. And then it breaks because it reaches that frequency and then will, vibrate through and reaches a resonance. If I were to guess, that would be my first, if someone were to adjust, like keep the hub angle of attack right where it is, and then just reduce it a little bit. Like a lot of the tips for common props that we use nowadays, it ends at like 11 degrees angle of attack, because that's also what's spinning the fastest.
Right. Now, it seems to me that if we can get a good design of these, that this would actually make it a lot easier for our flight controller to compensate for any kind of vibration too.
That's where I think the second one, the second aspect of why I think these actually reduce noise in the way we typically expect to hear, because it's a low hum instead of a high, a combination of both high and low hum, is actually with asymmetrical prop loading, because it distributes. If anyone doesn't know what that is, as quads start to go faster and faster, our quads will naturally, through just dynamics, want to do this, because the back end's making thrust or lift, the front end's making lift, and it'll just want to do this, right? Well, as you start to go faster and faster, what you'll notice is this prop, this one here, because I fly props out, this one,
as we all should,
will start to, you'll notice that there's a section on this prop that will make more. So if you just label this one 1, 2, and 3, so as one comes around here, air's hitting, and then it stops producing lift or as much lift. There's a slight rate, change, and then it'll not produce as much lift, and then now 3 is producing more lift. But what that causes sometimes is slight vibrations, tiny vibrations. And that can, if your arm isn't designed super great, that's why super thin arms will have a little bit of this and be harder to tune on a frame. It's because of that asymmetrical prop loading on the propeller. That I actually think is improved a little bit with this design, because it's distributing how that low and high pressure on the top and the bottom of the airfoil is getting, is mixing with itself. And so I think we're just getting a lot smoother. It's more analog instead of discretized, like, a biblade or a tri-blade.
Key features: decreases signals to which in the frequency range to which humans are most sensitive, meaning it doesn't bother us. Reduces noise without requiring supplementary components that add weight and increase power draw. Lessens the likelihood that the spinning propeller will cut, catch, or clip objects or surfaces in the drone's path. I don't know about that. I mean, it's gonna hit Scraggle. Achieves thrust comparable to that of a multi-rotor drone propeller. Allows reliable fabrication with additive manufacturing techniques that make possible to customize a propeller. So using additive manufacturing, he's mentioning, because that's what we're doing when we're 3D printing, right? Additive manufacturing. Yeah. Again, for them to be inexpensive, and us to use durable materials, they have to be designed in such a way that they can the mold can be taken apart and they can be released from the mold easily. So typically a 2-part mold is the goal.
Looking at this picture, how did he make those props? Are they injection molded, or?
I bet they were additive manufactured.
So this is resin printing. So this blue material, this is 3D resin printed, and it looks like he ran through the UV hardening and all that.
Something like this.
It looks like they were printed in 2 pieces, because I'm seeing looks like a split here at the hub.
That
like
was
printed half and half.
That was what I was.
Could it be 2 scimitar style props?
Yeah, see, Jubal, that's where I was going. That's where I could see this going, is actually having each blade, rotation of a blade printed, similar to how we combine foldy props. Mm-hmm. You could do that same thing with this, and it could be injection molded that way.
Well, and that's so we've seen like people like Quad Mover, who also did the toroidal props. He's done the double layer props and the steel props and all that.
Yeah,
we've seen people put one set of props on top of another set of props.
But you're not taking it. You're not taking advantage of the aerodynamics. Like that's just like just doing 2 things and expect to get different result, right?
No, I understand, but what I'm looking at is that in the blue props that they were just showing, the resin ones, it looked like it was 2 reversed scimitar style props that just connected at the tips, and that's pretty much what it is theoretically as a toroidal prop. But the break in the hub there could have just been a twist point for that mold. Like for manufacturing purposes, and then it connects during the installation onto the drone.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how they.
I'm thinking the hub could open up and widen that out for manufacturing, so that they can make that the swoop of the prop on that toroidal prop.
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways to do it. The best way to do it is just at the tip, instead of having it do this, but having just a tiniest little gap where they meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And now you have space, because now you could run a top mold, clamshell style. You could run a top mold that comes out the top, bottom mold comes out the bottom. You could do it that way. But I can't speak to how much of an efficiency gain or change in dynamics of the air would come from that. The best way to do it is more like the Sharo, boat propeller, where they kind of do this. Because if you look, they make planes that I think they're sometimes referred to as box planes. But they do that to reduce how much of the high pressure and low pressure mix, and you get the, so they do that to reduce the overall or increase the efficiency without increasing the length of the wing.
Now, another question I had, again, this has been proven, hydro technology, not so much in the in our industry. Boat propellers. Well, no, boat propellers are. The reason they did this was to fight cavitation.
Yeah.
So cavitation is, I guess,
bubbles.
Layman explanation. It's almost equivalent to our prop wash, but it's the propeller cutting so hard that it's ripping the water apart, and it's creating these negative pressure bubbles that implode and not explode.
Yeah, but the really, really really powerful. Like cavitation can eat away at the metal tips.
There's a reason all performance propellers are made with stainless steel instead of aluminum now. They used to be coated or plated aluminum, but because of cavitation and the imploding bubbles, they create a spike that just freaking eats into anything.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple of videos where they're trying to use directed cavitation for cutting metals and weird stuff like that. So, but yeah, so the boat propellers. I mean, you're fighting cavitation, but you're moving in one direction and usually at a constant speed. Right, we're not trying to slow down. We're not it's a single motor, right? So we're not trying to sink or because of the way the multi rotors work, right? We're adding various amounts of power to the different motors to move ourselves around. So these motors, the propellers are going to need to speed up and slow down without creating pockets of air or prop wash, right? I'm wondering how that's going to perform. But again, it's like until we do some research for our specific application, or until somebody with some kind of money and design money and test money, gem fan, HQ props, things like that, maybe we may not see it. Well, I think someone will make them. I think probably Gem Fan will probably make them just as a hype prop if they can manufacture them easily.
I don't know. Zong Zong already dislikes me enough, so HQ probably won't.
I mean, someone mentioned the Dragonfly props, but Dark Side, the HQ had something similar when they made the Dragonfly props, and then I wanted to touch on something that someone said, props out. Okay, I'm gonna just digress just a little bit. Props out is not always beneficial.
Yes, it is. Don't you lie to the people, Zach.
I won't. It's because that thing that I was talking about, that asymmetrical prop loading, what happens when you have something that's in the way, right? If you've got the best case is actually sometimes when flying indoors or close proximity, if you have very powerful rig in like a hallway or something like that, props in might actually give you a little bit more control. Because
accurate, and for things like TinyWhoops, I will say I fly most TinyWhoops that I've ever built props out, and the only benefit I've found to flying them props in, as some come stock set up that way, most Acrobees come props in and all that stuff, I believe. Mm-hmm. But props in with a whoop seems to avoid the wall suction a lot more than with props out. It seems to just suck right up to the wall instantly. So
I have no clue why that happens, by the way.
I don't either.
I know.
I've
had so many people ask me.
It's like, and whoop, like.
It's on the first bump too. As soon as you touch it, it's like
it's gone. Yeah. And it doesn't matter if it's a 3-inch TinyWhoop or a TinyWhoop 65 millimeter, whatever. It's but with props in, I do find that you at least get 2 or 3 bumps before you get sucked up against the wall instead of just that instant go. So there are benefits to doing props in as well. But I've personally, just in flying, I found that the yaw response for both racing, freestyle, and just cinematic in general seems to be a lot cleaner with props out, as well as in terms of like trees and grass and any ghost branches or anything, you're far less likely to get caught up in any of that shit.
You want to hear my theory on what you mentioned, that added yaw authority?
Yeah.
When flying freestyle. So it has to do with this asymmetrical prop loading concept that I've been obsessed with for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's throwing.
I was looking. I was looking
way.
for that for the graph that you showed me. I thought I took a screenshot of it, but I can't find it.
Oh,
Yeah.
of the like, yeah,
your little
I forgot.
your quad.
Yeah, it can actually be explained just like grab your own quad. So I'm running props out. You'll notice right out here, my most advantaged area is actually away from the body when flying props out in the back. Now, if I had flown props in, what happens is your most advantaged point when flying forward is close to the body. That's where, a lot of shitty turbulent air is coming off as you're flying forward. So that's my theory of why it can be a little squirrely and you might have shit yaw control, is because it's too close to the body, and why a lot of people, you remember, like must have been 4 or 5 years ago, where people were arguing back and forth about closing off the body or leaving it open improved flying characteristics. I think it had something to do with that, but nobody was talking about that concept back then.
Well, but you're talking about micro eddies at the ends of the props.
Yeah.
So that can happen. Like, we're talking about, if you fly too close to the ground, you get the ground effect. If you fly too close to the wall, you get the wall effect. It's the exact same thing. Those eddies, those vortices, are coming off of your propellers and getting sucked in, and that's causing a convergent control system, and it just sucks you into the wall.
Now, Zach, I got a conundrum for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, what about a rig that flies both props in and props out?
If there's actually research that's done on this. I gotta, it sucks to know when someone does it better than you.
I'm gonna pause you because I think you're gonna be very intrigued by what I've done.
Oh, there's plenty of ways you can do it.
Mine's different. I have run tuning for this, individual tuning. All of them are running at the same tune, but the bottom props, as you'll notice, are far, far more pitched than the top props.
Makes sense.
And I did that because of the 2/3 coaxial effect that runs through most coax X8s, and most people aren't fucking getting that with these fucking Cinelifters, guys.
Wait. There's a way to avoid it, or you can avoid it. Depending on the size of the props, the RPMs, and your load, and your total disc loading. You've done one of the options where you have just slightly pitched up props on bottom with the same KV motors. I know Bob Ruge explored this a little bit, but I think he went down a different avenue that I think could. There's another way to do it. If you look on a lot of commercial, someone mentioned submarines for 2 screws for anti-cavitation. They have applied a similar concept. There are others, actually turboprops, back at the very beginning of some experimentation with improving efficiencies for airliners. They had props that were running, contra-rotating, but one of the things that improved efficiency was not, increasing the amount of space between the propellers. It was decreasing the amount of space between the propellers.
Yeah, and one other thing that I was doing a little bit of research when Matt and I built this one, because I tried it with the same props on both. I tried it at one point. I don't know if Matt remembers this. I tried it with another version where the frames were further apart with like 20 millimeter standoffs, and I put the motor inside instead of on the underneath, and so that worked okay, but it didn't fly that great. In terms of coaxials, like, I was used to that big ass one way up there. That's a coaxial, and it's running 15-inch props. Like, that was my first one, and that was probably 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago that I got that one going, and that thing was great. Like it flew great. It hovered fine, and it had a lot of thrust. But FPV, it was wobbly as shit. But this one thing I did try was spinning both of the motor one section ones the same way, where bottom and top were both clockwise, bottom and top counterclockwise, bottom and top clockwise, so that it avoided that contra rotation and the airflow issues, but the control was severely limited. Like it did not have the snappy control. Whereas now the way I've got it set up with the alternating prop sizes, it flies like it's on fucking rails. Like it is so
you solved the fundamental issue is this one's getting clean air, this one's getting dirty air, and you either got to cut through it. I mean, I bet it pulls, the bottom motors. I would love to see some black box of that with the motor readout to see.
I can try and run some next time.
It would be an interesting, aspect. But then the other thing that I would love people to do is start recording. I wish right now there's only you can only do 2 settings. Like you could run gyro scaled in black box, or you can actually run RPM. You can get a readout of your RPMs, and that would be a great way to normalize, and compare back and forth.
You can do that with goggle OSD too if you're running analog.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you the graph, right? I want the graph.
You're absolutely right.
It would be cool to see black box output both, right? Yeah. Have the RPMs with the gyro scale, because I care more about the gyro scale than the RPMs. But it'd be really, really cool to see that. And what I was going to say before was about the, you got to hand it to, when someone does it better. Free Zillion.
Yes.
His frame was freaking phenomenal, and was pissed. I was like, damn it, he did it really well. And but he, in my opinion, this is again my opinion, I'm an engineer, I see it through my lens. He may have seen it through another lens. I thought he should have gone with bigger props and smaller ducts.
Yeah.
But it still worked for what he designed it for his needs, so. Yeah.
So we got just popping in and saying hi to people in the chat. Dane Martin. What? I'm not your friend, Dane? I know Wiz is your friend, but I'm not your friend? You're saying I'm not your friend. I see.
Hey, just on my opinion on props in and props out is just me purely being lazy, because I feel it's easier to clean grass off my lens of my camera than off the inside of my stack.
Yeah.
Me, because I race, it props out, kicks you away from the gates. It's like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And it keeps dirt off your lens. I tend to crash more than most other race pilots, so grass on my lens is a reality.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'd like to laugh at just a little bit is looking at the MIT drone.
Huh.
So this is the actual video from Twitter
the
from
DJI
MIT.
Flame wheel, man.
I was gonna say, dude, MIT's got mad money, and they're using an $18 freaking frame.
Guys,
you have no clue. Not even the real one, the Banggood version too.
This is not new. Study. This study is so old. That's what I'm trying to tell people. It's like this.
Does he put out a plan on how to manufacture these props at all, or is it just a concept idea?
It's just an idea. It's like oh, okay. Let me see. Matt, can I share my screen?
Sure. Down at the bottom there should be a screen share button.
The middle one, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so can you see this? Yeah. So this is a 6-inch prop, right? I made this a while back. But what we're seeing here, like from the top down, there's no way to manufacture this because we got overlapping geometry right here.
Right.
Mhm.
However, if we were to do this, and now suddenly, you get to a point, like if this was designed differently, you get to a point where you could manufacture this, right? The mold would be here, and you cut these into 3, and then
And
you
we've
have
already
something.
got folding prop designs out there that you could design to attach to that hub.
Yeah. And so there's ways to do it. Some people will do it. I've thought about the way I would do it. Other people might go, "Oh, I would rather do it this way." And then this is the 31 millimeter one. I designed this, not kidding, like 3 years ago. Like this was 8/27 of 2020. So.
Yeah. So, guys, for those who don't know Zach's background, he's designed a bunch of whoop props for Newbie Drone and other companies, and he's designed motors for TBS, I believe it was. Was it TBS?
No, I've done motors for Newbie Drone as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you did the espresso motors and those, right?
I've touched a lot of the motors. Yeah.
Yeah.
The flow motors.
Dude, the flows are some of my favorites of by far.
These ones are custom.
Look, wait, where to go? Where did I just put that?
These ones are 3150s, and I'm running them on 6X.
You're a dick, by the way. All flow motors, motherfucker. And these are your failure ones too. They are.
I know. So those are those ones.
The first
basically the manufacturer put shit bearings. We asked for them, a certain type of bearings, and they're like, "Oh, we'll cheap out on them."
This one was the one with the bad shaft. The one that if you tighten the prop too much, the C clip would yank the shaft clean through.
Yeah, so that was actually because of the
bearing slot right there. Yeah.
So the bearings, if they were too sloppy of bearings, what would happen is they wouldn't load correctly, and you would crunch the bearings at the same time. You would pull rip the C clip off the bottom, and that was just like because there's not many people realize this, but motor manufacturers are very particular and very guarded about the internals of what their motors look like. So I rarely got to see the actual internals and mess with the tolerances and the way I would do it. That was all controlled typically by the manufacturer, and they're like, we have our setups designed for this motor and this stator and this press setup, and so they would do it that way, and a lot of just the externally was what I touched, which was what the base looked like.
This is the dead one, the one that the shaft pulled through. You can see that little black line right at the tip of the shaft in the housing. So, and this is a good one, brand new good one. No line. I pulled this shaft out, but it's hard to tell. They're ridiculously great motors, though, man. I had
just tap it back down with a hammer and put the C clip on, Dan.
I did.
Yeah, sure. Just run your bearings like it sounds like a coffee grinder.
Dude, I did. I hit it. This was the one that was on the Mistress Helen, the motor that I blew out because I was tightening the props on too tight. And I tightened this prop on, it crunched it, and I ended up tapping it back in with a hammer and spooling it up. And I was like, it actually spins, but I don't trust it. So I fucking pulled it off.
Not many people realize this, but this was a big issue about 5 years ago. You can go back to early Rotor Riot videos and watch them, and I think Steele touches on it in a couple of, he's like, make sure you don't over tighten your props. And one of the reasons was, well, one, the props were like glass, and two, many people were using like the same couple of manufacturers in China, and they would all design their shaft or how they were press fitting their shaft into the stator, or I'm sorry, into the bell housing was all the same way. And they were just, you could literally do exactly what you did, but just crunch your bearings basically instead of.
Now, just keeping with the flow motors, I will say, dude, I've been through, let's see, 12 5-inch flow motors, and they are the 6S version ones, as well as have a full 10-pack in use of the 3-inch version. Yeah. So I do love the flow motors. They're one of the few motors that I've bought. Like, dude, everybody here knows exactly how much I love my old school Emax red bottoms.
They are good. They are still good. They were one of the few that had good air gap.
Dude, they were amazing.
Yeah.
22.
They could just. Emax could just take that, make a new bottom.
Were fucking epic.
And then done. Just sell those. It's like a premium motor.
Dude,
don't change anything. Just change the base.
I used to buy those in bulk. I had at one point 26 fucking 1306 red bottoms.
I've got a couple quads on the wall with red bottoms, both the black top.
I love them, and like I've got a bunch, but when I find a motor, I stick with that motor. And for a while, it was red bottoms, whether it was micros or 5-inch or whatever. And then I had that stint with T-Motor for a while, where I had their V2s on for a while. And then I won one of the Bardwell giveaways of the big pack of flow motors. And I was like, sick. So I threw them on my quads. And I started flying them, and I was like, "Man, these are wicked."
Yeah, it's.
And I went to flows, and I think now, okay, so now I've made a big mistake, guys. Speaking of Mr. Steele, as you just brought up, I'm sorry, Steele Davis, for bringing this up, but your new stout motors fucking blow. Dude, I am sorry. I put those on my fucking skull. Everybody, like Matt knows how smooth my fucking skull is. I've had that thing tuned with like 6 different setups so far, and every time it flies like fucking silk. Like, it is the smoothest thing in the world. I put these motors on. It's still flying okay, but it's got this weird wobble to it, and the motors make this fucking hum that I cannot fucking get rid of. And it's not through the frame, it's the fucking motors. Fuck you, Steele Davis.
So I wanted to read this one little line in the paper that Zach pointed me to from MIT. Yeah. One factor that has limited the deployment of drones for these various uses, and they're talking about, for package delivery, aerial photography, search and rescue, and whatnot, is the noise they generate. Psychoacoustic experiments conducted in 2017 by NASA Langley Research Center, which is the one that
was about to work.
That's the one that teams up with the CIA on a lot of shit too. But showed humans reported a higher level of sensitivity to noise produced by small multi-rotor drones than noise from other traffic. Thus, quieter propellers could accelerate public acceptance and commercial adoption of drones.
See that paper? 2017. That one's actually interesting. I read that one. Well, part of it. It kept droning on and on. But the stuff is not new.
No. But here's the thing. It's like a thrift store. It's new to us.
That's all I'm asking. Like, Jubal, I'm happy if you want to explore like a different, tweak to something. Great. That's what you should do. I should, promise you. If you want, I'll even teach you Fusion 360.
And we've got, by the way, we have a couple connections with people who can possibly injection mold this. I know PropKilla does injection molding as well, so we might be able to come up with a design.
Don't even need to do that. Just make a 2-part mold out of the 3D print and test that first, and then you can sand. Give it a little sand.
Yeah, you can
That's
make
what I would start first.
you can make resin molds for testing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, also, Wiz,
silicone molds.
did you ever use like the acetone sanding method to smooth it out at all?
No. This was just like a spur of the moment thing. It popped up and I did it.
Okay. Yeah, dude, and that's the thing. Like, I saw you just like post one with the one prop.
I did it
one
once
with like 3 props, and you're like still printing the 4th. I was like, God damn.
Yeah,
I was surprised you did that. I was like, I'm scared to do that with
impatient.
slightly different pitches and do like
I was
entirely
so
different props.
Yeah. I was too impatient. I just wanted, I'm like, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And it worked with 1 and 2 and 3. So I'm like, all right, let's keep going with this.
Right? And dude, that was awesome. That's why I reached out. I was like, dude, you gotta come on. Like, and I like that design too. I much prefer the biblade design to the tri-blade one. The tri-blade one just looks like somebody cut a bunch of Pringles cans and glued them together.
Now, the MIT design looks like it's so flat that you wouldn't be able to print it without support, and adding support material is just going to add more, imperfections on the print.
Yeah, it's going to throw it off balance.
That's what I had issues with. I mentioned that I had printed some of my small 31 millimeter propellers for Newbie Drone. With what we found out was with Formlabs, they don't have any radial symmetry to throw out their supports. So I had to like manually get as close as I could, and even still, like some would, because I was using at the time it was beta, it was at 0.1 millimeter thickness, and I would have to sand down and tune it a little bit, balance it a little bit, but that's for really tiny stuff. So supports on bigger stuff would be like, that would be hard to tune. You'd have a good quad, good tune to, I can't freaking fly this shit anymore.
Yeah. And that's the problem, is like, if even one of those props is slightly off balance, it could throw the whole tune out of whack. And so that's one of the reasons why I kind of feel like the only way we can actually properly test this is to somehow either injection mold it or very fine resin print. Because resin would be the only one that would hold up to it, and injection molding we can use polycarb, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter.
Or design the mold with the resin printer, and then pour that.
Yeah. So if maybe we can get together with Mr. Propkilla or Mr. Bull S FPV official. We all know him as Propkilla. Don't try and hide, motherfucker. But yeah, he did some for a while, and I know Robbie said he might be able to get FDM print a mold for it. But that bot grinder in the house, what's up? Long time no see, Doug. How you doing, buddy? Bot grinder says, I'm printing a bunch right now in different materials. I expect them to all explode. We do too. I'm in full agreement with you on that.
That's with any prop that he flies.
Well, yeah, exactly. We have not found a prop that Doug Crasher cannot explode yet. But yeah, fuck. Man, you got me all thrown off, man. Fuck. Just pop it up in here. What's up, dude? But yeah, so I think it's possible, but I think we need to really collaborate with some people on the right materials and the right way to go about it, because each one would be very specific depending on size and its usage, whether it's going to be a cineprop or whatever. So we need to kind of we need to kind of get with like GemFan or somebody and figure out what the most common. I'm assuming 5-inch straight up would probably be the most common, but yeah.
So Zach, you said that it would be easier to have the tips not connected as far as manufacturing goes.
Yeah,
Did you
let
say
me let
that?
me let me explain that real quick. Let me pull up what I just had here.
That would be like a modified 4-blade prop because they're not touching, just bending the.
Yeah, so you do want them touching one,
Oh, yeah.
but I'll yeah, let me pull up.
Just the tip. You just want the tip to touch. Just the tip, bro. Come on.
Yeah, so Matt, if you don't mind throwing my my screen up.
Oh,
for
yep.
me.
Hold on.
No, you're good. So right here, if these, so what I did with these guys is this is at a tilt right here.
Yeah.
Right. What could be done here is basically having like the ones you printed, Jubal, has kind of it nearly goes vertical, and there's a section where you can see from above that there's nothing here, right? So at that point, it's much easier to do like a vertical wall because you can injection mold that.
Yeah.
If you can do that, like just take out, the little bit right here. So this is just a flat piece. That's injection moldable. You could totally do that.
Okay.
But you just got to balance that out with what are we thinking for performance? What's the actual, what's the end goal of this little cavity right here? What is
What's
this
going to happen?
useful?
What's going to happen to the noise with the high speed air?
Yeah, you got to talk through that and think about it. And one of the biggest reasons why these ones that you've been flying are a little bit more usable is because they have one less, prop material all the way out here. We're taking the average propeller is like, at its thickest, cord tip to tail. The front of the blade to the back of the blade is like anywhere from, for 5-inch, probably thinnest 9 millimeters. Well, not the thickness, but the cord length.
Yeah.
To as like some of the bigger ones, which were like the Emax 6-inch that were like 12 to 13. But the average is probably 12 millimeters or something like that. Yeah. If you just shrink these, see how these are a little bit thinner from here to here?
Yeah.
If you just shrink those ones that you have, I bet they'll actually be a little bit better because, and then the other thing is what you'll notice is these are a little steeper here and then they go to a much shallower pitch here. If you do that same thing with the props you have, I see then it really becoming a much better propeller. Blizzard. I actually did. I thought about trying to do that.
The blades, that would be amazing.
So Blizzard asked one that whistles, and I was coming up with a way to
like improve. A Nerf ball.
Yeah.
Hey,
no,
don't joke, man. Those freaking.
It's potentially possible. But if I made a slit in like a propeller, you could totally do it.
That's epic. Oh, I want to do that so bad. So please put a whistle on it. Oh yeah, because that's exactly what the FPV fucking world needs. It's more
let's go. We
noises coming from our fucking drones when we punch out.
So yesterday, let's send it. Send the noise to the moon.
It's like putting a playing card in a bicycle spoke or an echo or exhaust on a Honda Civic.
Speaking of weird ass propeller designs that work.
Yes.
So this is the Da Vinci screw propeller.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So and it works. It freaking works. Dude running on a tunnel.
So I think Bot and
Yeah, but
Rob are talking printers. Bot's got the SVO1. Rob's got the SVO2. I've got a longer LK5 Pro. Bot was saying something about his Ender Pro. Bot, get something bigger, like a longer LK5. But you've got the Soval. So the Soval's a great printer. Check out the SVO2 though, or the SVO3, I believe.
I think Soval is broke off from Creality. I think people who used to work at Creality.
Yeah, I think it's a similar company. Yeah. God, those Da Vinci props. That's awesome.
Yeah, but they're not going to work because they don't look cool.
Who cares? We've learned this with a lot of the different goggle designs and all that. Even if they don't look cool, people will use them.
Yeah.
Hell, we've all seen some funky ass props. Nobody actually flies those damn Galaxy props, but everybody takes pictures with their drones on.
You know the props that I was really bummed because the science is actually pretty supportive of it, and it was just a bummer that Korea kind of shit the bed on making them. But the ones with they had ribs. I hate calling them that, but the way they designed them,
the funnel lines or whatever they call them,
kind of the science and the paper,
ribbed for her pleasure.
Yes,
the paper behind them. Behind that idea actually comes from blue whale. They're called tubercles.
Yeah.
And if you do those right, they actually can have some really cool characteristics. And I designed a set of 31 millimeter props and 40 millimeter props at that size, and they were interesting. But
fly high.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, I did have a question while we're talking about weird-ass props.
Sure.
What about the golf ball divot theory?
Yeah.
Would that be beneficial for props, or would that cause too much drag in the overall performance?
Sure. Let's break it down. So this is like, we can walk through this. This is how I typically go through. It's like,
yeah. Blizzard just popped up with the same idea. So sorry.
Yeah. So there is actually a prop that has them on the market. Not many people realize this, but the Master Air Screws, the 13-inch props, and I think 2 of the 11 has them on the backside. But that's for a different reason. It works differently. They are textured, but they're not dimpled. The golf ball dimples are very specific to how a golf ball flies through the air.
Yeah, and there's 365 of them
specifically fast.
Yeah.
So adding more drag improves, directly on the ball itself, actually improves the aerodynamic characteristics as it flies through the air at certain speeds, at golf ball speeds, right? For driving speeds. But for propellers, you have to tweak that idea a little bit. So you can still take and go, okay, what can texture on the prop or certain areas of the prop do for how it flies? And they actually do that. But it's more challenging because you're messing with how the air separates from the airfoil. And that is a complex idea because, well, we're flying really dynamically anyways. So it becomes, a tough conversation.
Yeah.
I actually pitched early on with Kelvin, the owner of Newbie Drone. I pitched an idea. I was like, hey, what if we try, because some of the machining behind the mold for some really smooth propellers, it can be kind of expensive. And I was like, well, I wonder what if we instead kind of were okay with, we try this propeller a little bit with really, less smooth characteristics.
Yeah.
in an effort to improve how that separation, and it's much harder to balance that in smaller props anyways, because the Reynolds numbers don't work out and you're not going as fast. So lots of complex stuff, but basically it could work, but it's just expensive to explore because you kind of have to get into some nit and gritty stuff and actually produce them.
Matt's got something interesting up.
How about this? A propless drone.
Oh, the Magnetron.
Ionic hover, yeah.
Oh,
Ionic propulsion.
What the hell?
Yeah.
I see a string. I'm pretty sure I see a string.
Yeah.
They have strings.
Because
it takes 20,000 volts. We're talking about 20,000 volts. You need something. You can't put that kind of power on a super
Come
lightweight.
on, we bleed 1S lipos right there. We bleed 1S lipos.
That's a 1KS lipo.
Right?
Yeah, let's see him power loop that thing.
Right?
These, they joke on the paper that MIT released about this. They're like, it's nearly silent. They were louder at that scale. It's louder than propellers.
Well, transformers make noise, right?
Yeah, because you're ionizing the air. It got up like at that largest scale. It was like getting up to like 70 decibels. Anyways, go read the paper. It's interesting, or just skim it, and you can see at least see the what they're talking about there.
And of course, it's just a track drone with propellers, coaxial.
Okay. See how close those propellers are?
Yeah.
As you get them closer and closer and closer, it can actually improve some of the aerodynamics. I know that seems counterintuitive, but it does.
Flapping. I got a flap. That just looks like a straight up FPV drone there.
Oh, this is talking about some of the that's the
AI.
The AI flying, yeah, the map, the at speed AI navigation.
Well, what fun is having a computer fly your drone? Yeah.
You mean you just don't like watching someone else play a video game?
You mean for civilian purposes? Oh, absolutely no reason at all. Now, if you're talking military purposes, I know a couple of generals that could think of 1,000 reasons.
Oh, this one's really neat. I've seen this one as well.
I wonder if they're going to have the snake drone on there. Have you seen that one?
Probably.
The AI snake drone where it's just like super long and it kind of works its way through things.
Did it just whoa? Did it just grip something and then fly away?
Yes, it did. That was watch.
I've never seen that shot.
The spinning props are holding the box.
Wow. That's
really pretty cool though.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, that was dope. Did you see that?
I actually I have a design for something like that.
Look at this. He folded all 4 props to drop through the hole and then re-extended them. Oh, God damn it.
No, I had a similar design for like missling through gaps and stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. He just
that was cool.
All 4 arms folded up and he dropped right through and then they re-extended. Shoot.
Could you imagine doing a power loop and, dropping throttle and just having all your arms kind of?
Yeah, I'm kind of interested to see where we go. Right now, I'm kind of interested. I'm actually more interested to see where the military technology really is on multi-rotors. I have a feeling they're a little further ahead than what we're seeing.
I don't know. Depends on the contractor.
So.
There's been, it's amazing to see how much rebranding there is of hobbyist level capability, motors or electronic capabilities or anything like that. And they just like repackage it differently and sell the same internals. Like you can see, the equivalent of, brushless motors that we would use, except it's, the equivalent of white labeled and then has like some camo on it.
Yeah.
But it's got to be mil spec.
D-motor.
These motors are mil spec.
So
they can fly under the water.
Yeah, if most of you guys, mil spec is a little bullshit thing that the military created to only allow certain vendors to dispense to the military. It's a quality thing, but supposedly.
Kind of.
Yeah. It turns out to be which company lines the right pockets the most, the fastest, I guess. I don't know.
But when you can get some access to that fun stuff, it's super fun. just put that out there. Like that, dude. That little FPV heli that like fits in your hand.
Yeah, the $80,000 one.
Yeah, my one of my local pilot buddies who not gonna necessarily name him at the moment. Might have one and has flown around.
They're sweet. I've seen demos.
Yeah, they're fun, dude. Like it's ridiculous. By the way, just if there was any reason to use the word redonkadonk, this would be it.
Have you seen the drone swarms that they launch out of C-130s?
Yeah,
the deployable ones.
And there's also
switchblades. That's what they're called.
Yeah, my understanding is they're working on like a Tomahawk delivery system for for multiple swarms of drones. Like the Tomahawk's already known it can take out 5 or 6 targets at a time. It's got 5 different payloads, at the same time. But it's got, I think it's like 20 different configurations of warhead, different types of warheads and things like that. But yeah, just popping off like 20 little freaking autonomous drones. Just needs to be a wing drone. Freaking little homing system on it. It's nothing crazy complicated or anything like that. It's no more complicated than any of these damn drone shows that people are putting on nowadays.
Right. And there's a few guys in our community that work in those companies that do those like multi-drone shows and shit. Like they're pretty easy to set up if you get it. If you have the right.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go work on some military contractor stuff after I got out of the Navy, and I'd had enough of the doing work for the military while I was in.
Yeah.
Well, now I just work on microchips.
I've been approached, and I applied for that gig at the NIA and shit, but yeah, I never really dove into that. I just have a lot of friends in high places with fun toys. So I'm probably personally going to call it in about 20 or so minutes, guys. But Wiz, is there any other videos of yours or anything that you want to promote?
Actually, just my YouTube. I got a bunch of different videos on there of doing all kinds of crazy things. A lot of FPV stuff. I've been doing this for almost 8 years now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're one of the long-standing dudes like us. So
yeah, I just dropped his link in the chat, the link to his YouTube in the chat, guys.
yeah,
And one other plug is Jack's 3D printing and carbon. I designed the entire Triton lineup for him.
nice. So the Triton is a wicked frame. Jack did my Renegade Hexanano. So Jack was responsible. Hold on, I'm rebuilding it because I smashed a couple of the prototype frames. But this is my Hexanano, and it runs on 40mm props.
Nice.
And so this is the Renegade Hexa, and with like Matt and Zach have both seen the videos of it flying and all that. Jack's awesome, guys. So if you guys need a frame or 3D print stuff or anything like specifically designed, that's why I generally go to Jack. Is whenever I've got an idea and I'm like, "Yo, you got a design in mind?" Like, he's really awesome with that and doing the custom orders, guys. So definitely check out Jack's 3D printing. We do affiliate with Jack's. He's a great dude. So yeah, and the Triton, man, fuck, that's a great frame.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
That's my crowning achievement.
Yeah, that thing's a great frame, man. I've got the sticker somewhere. I know I do because Jack sent me a whole whack of stickers.
Yeah.
I never had the frame itself. I've only had the Splash and the Renegade. But yeah, so Zach, is there anything that you're working on that you want to post up or talk about before we go?
Not really.
Or any sponsors other than Newbie Drone and all that?
No, a good buddy of mine who's pushing out a lot of cool stuff. Nikolai Anashenko.
Oh yeah.
Nico FPV. It's a good buddy of mine. Helping him with some stuff, and go check his stuff out. And then I know Newbie Drone is. I'm still haven't done any work for them in a long while, but I know
so Cinema was the last one, right?
Yeah, actually, I think. But just know that I did get some confirmation with their team, and they're revamping some of their molding and stuff like that. So I know a lot of people have been, unfortunately, they've been plagued with some factory issues, not being very clear on what they want and all that stuff, and they've had some brittleness issues. I know they're really working on that right now. So give them a go again if you're looking for any of that kind of stuff. Outside of that, reach out. I'd love to. I'm seriously thinking about putting together some how-to videos, how to design frames, stuff like that. I'll let you guys know on that stuff. But otherwise, the other thing is just when you hear about engineering stuff that seems kind of little too much magic in the background, just to ask some of the assumption questions. What were the assumptions? What was the purpose? All that stuff. Like, do yourself a favor and try not to believe everything on the internet.
Now, guys, Zach is always very open to, if you guys have questions or see a post about something like, example, toroidal props or something like that you don't quite understand, or that you see people either A, trolling and bashing, or B, just being like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, sort of shit. Reach out to Zach. He loves talking it, like explaining this stuff in a way that we can understand it better.
Or look through the comments, because a lot of times Zach or Ryan Harrell have already made a comment on it in the post.
So sometimes I will admit, sometimes I am a little bit allergic to bullshit, and so that does come out.
We all are.
I need to be better at that.
Dude, I remember there was like 6 months ago or so, somebody was saying like, so I forget, it wasn't on your thing, it was on another post. Somebody was like, you guys are idiots and don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it was like, you, Ryan Harrell, and William Perry all just chimed in and were like, dude, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And
I mean,
it
they
was
don't
like
know who
all
I
the
am.
bigwigs just blew him out of the water.
They know
And we're
who
like,
Ryan
put
is.
you in your place, bro.
I don't. I purposefully try to keep a lower profile because I
Yeah,
get
I
better
know.
feedback, like more real feedback that way.
Yeah, it was one where
about
they
the
were
stuff I've
going
designed,
after
but-
Ryan, and you just jumped on him, and I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, so like I said, if people call me out if I'm saying something that sounds stupid or is not wrong, and call me
Yeah.
out. I like to learn, but if I'm confident about something, I'm gonna call it out.
Oh,
Hopefully in better ways. But try not to look like too much of a dick. But
no.
Well, so you mean you're not going Troy McKean style on him?
Right.
I don't know who that is. I don't want to get into that.
Matt just opened a whole can of worms that we're never gonna get out of. Matt, you're always bitching at me at starting the drama.
No, we don't.
This one, bro.
But yeah, as far as Jubal, I'd love to pick your brain about stuff, and likewise, I had no clue that you had designed the Triton. I know there's lots of people who do some really cool stuff, out there. So I would say, support the people who are trying to innovate. Try not to just make sure you're asking questions, about people who are putting out. The most innovative people are not the people always who are just, throwing stuff on YouTube or, trying to get likes or trying to get, posts and stuff. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of smart people doing a lot of smart things behind the scenes, and you won't ever see about it or hear about it. And it was like that whole question, that whole comment of, well, why is this the first time that I'm hearing about it? Because it didn't work. That's why.
Exactly. and that's the thing. Like, we're hearing about it now, and yeah, it didn't work, but that being said, we now actually do have a lot more fluidity in terms of things like 3D printing and resin printing and injection molding, because back then that was all still new tech as well. And 3D printing only very, very recently became very mainstream. Totally. Up until I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, the only 3D printers other than an Ender that you could buy were industrial grade. And so, and you could buy, you could buy custom hobby ones, and the Ender 3 and all those ones were available. But the tech itself, and there weren't many options for filament and et cetera, et cetera. Nowadays, we've had a lot of people, and mainly hobbyists, dive into that realm as well and advance that side, which then opens us up to exploring this new tech that didn't work before. So I do hope that at some point we can find somebody to injection mold at least a couple trial sets of these props.
Well, it's going to take a designer to design a piece that'll work. I mean,
a working one, yeah.
Right. So, and like I said, my guess is that there's a couple prop companies out there that probably have an engineer working on it or trying to work on something along that line.
It wouldn't surprise me if HQ is trying something, because they had their but also GemFam, because they're all interesting. But then the other thing I would just say is if you post something on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and you're like, you don't know, just say, I don't know if this is going to work. It's just an experiment. Don't just say, this is what I'm doing, and then also
next level technology.
Don't get butthurt when someone tells you hey, let's not make the toroidal props out of TPU, right?
Yeah,
it's just going to wiggle. And then, right?
Blow up, yeah.
What? Flexible filament wiggle. Come on.
Fly High brought up quad movers that had hubs that were 2 times larger than needed. Yeah.
The problem with that is you also mess with the problem with the hubs that he had, in my opinion, the prop may have worked and it may have made a more rigid propeller, but you're blocking off all of the airflow to your motor.
But this is actually a great example of what I'm talking about here. Is like, instead of, lots and lots of people, assuming what they think might be or whatever, let's ask him. He may have just gone, I don't know. I just threw it together, printed it to get a video out. Right? It may have just been that.
Quad mover's that type too, where he'll just be like, it's about the size of a quarter. Like, like, and he'll be like, yeah, sure, that seems about right. Like, he's that type that'll throw it together real quick.
But in my opinion, for these things to work, the hub does need to be a little bit larger.
For it to stay together, at least. And
well, I mean, for as a unit piece, I would think it would need to be all. But again, like, they're not going to be manufactured unit piece. It's not going to work.
You said Blizzard. Oh, sorry, Jubal, go ahead.
I was going to say, you mentioned Zong Zong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he commented on one of my posts. Someone tagged him, what do you think about these props? And his reply was, hard to make mold.
Yes. Well, that would be his response, because the R&D behind just getting that mold made itself would probably be pretty costly.
Yeah, you're talking tens of thousands of dollars investment for each mold. So
yeah, exactly.
Assuming, because he can't just use a normal 2-part mold that so for people who don't know molding, they have the mold and then the core. The core is what they make the actual, that they make the part with, and all the rest of the metal and pins and stuff is just there to support. When you go from just a 2-part mold, and then add a bunch of complexity with slides and inserts and stuff, you have to make an entirely new mold system.
Yeah.
To support the cooling, channeling, slides, mechanisms to mold that part, and that's the expensive part.
Not only the amount of trial and error that you'll have to do to be able to fill that mold properly with all this equipment, like, because the amount of times that these molds in the test phases come out with one section of the prop bubbled, or the other, or like the tip missing, like they don't, unless it's pressurized properly, unless it's running like a whole new system. Like, each prop has its own thing.
I mean, that's why we have that issue now.
Yeah, and that's why for a long time they only had very standard size and pitch props.
I still don't know why they use, like, if you look, grab a prop, there's usually 1 or 2 gates being the inlets to let the plastic in. I still don't understand, on a tri-blade prop, use 3 gates so you get a bit more balanced filling. But sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I had a few props. I can't remember which manufacturer, but they would always snap off, and you could see a void in right where they would break near the hub.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Injection molding is not an easy task.
No,
now, the less fill lines you have, the less cleanup you have.
Now, if they were to get one that worked and that was popular enough for people to buy it, chances are they'd put the money into that R&D. Like, that's the thing. It's all about supply and demand. And if we get enough people saying it's working, then
the tough part
it'll happen.
From what
then you get into the patent area.
From what I've seen, there's more people interested than people less interested in this, as far as like the community goes. But it doesn't take much for these big companies to make things happen when there's an interest for it.
Yeah.
Right, but the level of difficulty on this one is considerable. I mean, you're
yes.
Well, maybe they need to get that MIT guy to figure out how to manufacture them.
Well, like I said, looking at the MIT ones, it looked like it was a two-blade prop, and they were resin printed sepaitly and joined at the hub. So,
I have access
that's why I like the idea of Jubal's biblade prop as well. because it looks a lot cleaner, a lot simpler. It looks like it would be a lot easier to injection mold than the big 3-blade weirdness that I keep seeing. I don't know why that 3-blade one rubs me the wrong way, but it just.
What were you saying?
Well, when I printed the 2.5 inch, it rubbed my CineWhoop the wrong way too. It hovered, but then it exploded like 10 seconds later.
Were you what were you flying? The Rosser?
No, it was the 5 inch was the AOS 5, but my 2.5 was a Pavo 25.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw the AOS, so I was like, huh.
Yeah, those ones on the 2.5, that's an insane, that's a lot of prop for 15, I'm guessing they were 14 millimeter stator or 15 millimeter stator.
14 XX.
14. Yeah. If you just reduce that cord quite a bit, because you can, so something that I've done, and I have a bunch of charts. I just keep some Google Docs with a bunch of Excel, or spreadsheets on them. But what you can do is just calculate the tip speed, and then take that tip speed, convert it into just velocity right at the tip, and plug that in meters per second. Plug it into like they have Reynolds numbers calculators on, which is a characteristic of describing air under certain conditions, for identifying, characteristics of airfoils, like how well they'll perform in certain conditions. And you can plug that in. What you can find is the smaller and smaller you go, you realize how slow these propellers, the smaller props, are actually spinning, and then how much of the tweaks you have to do to the characteristics on the blade itself.
Yeah.
It's not too hard. It's not rocket science for sure, and to get you in the ballpark. But I would just shrink the cord a little bit.
That would probably work.
Somebody's got a pupper going nuts.
I gotta dip out. Matt, if you want to keep it going and chat for a bit, you're welcome.
I unfortunately got to peel off myself, but
yeah, I figured.
I'm gonna have to go here shortly myself. I got to get up at 5 a.m. for work. So.
Well, I will say, Jubal and Zach, thank you guys very much for joining us this week.
Of course, yeah.
Let's definitely collaborate on this a little bit more in future weeks, because I think if we get another episode updating people in like a month or so, probably be awesome.
Yeah. Jubal, just keep releasing that content. It's really cool what you're doing,
dude. It is, and that's one of the
I'm just glad that someone's actually applying it and they're just talking about the way they did it, right? Versus this is the next big thing. It's just like, no, I downloaded it, I tweaked it, we'll see if it works.
And that's the thing, man. Like that's the reason I reached out to you, is because like your content is great. Like, and you went about it the right way. You were like, I'm gonna fuck with this. Let's see what happens.
I'm just glad you actually got it to freestyle, because
exactly.
I hadn't seen anyone else.
By the way, Zach, Blizzard says Whistler props.
Whistle props. I gotta dig through my. I have something that I can probably tweak.
Dude, a prop with like just a hole through like one of the blades, like a Nerf, like with the little.
Yeah, it would be really cool to dial it in so that like at different RPMs model. It would have different.
Like a slide whistle.
Yeah.
Oh,
we can play Jingle Bells with our quad.
Wait a second, that's actually doable. That's doable.
And Zach will not sleep for another 4 days.
I did put zip ties on the arms of my drones, pointing up into the bottom of my motors, kind of like a kid with the baseball card, just to made it was freaking awesome noise. But yeah, the props kind of heated up and didn't like the high speed smacking by the zip ties too much.
I had a TinyWhoop that the duct broke and was clipping the prop. It made a similar noise. But yeah, guys, everybody, thank you very much for watching this week. Next week, we're I think Tudor's coming back on. Talk about a little bit about 3D. And I know she's been having some issues, but she just I'm gonna talk to my friend Zoe and see if she can pop in and give us some 3D pointers. Because I think Chris Tudor really wanted to get it more into 3D the other week, and we kind of shit the bed on that and just ended up talking about wings and chase scenes.
I mean, it's easy enough. We do this every week, so.
Oh yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, have a great night. Tune in to Optimize Drones. Check out our sponsors, which are We Lead FPV, Gang Multi-Rotors, TinyWhoop. We got Racer X. And we got a few other random affiliates like RMRC and all those. So, yeah, guys, check out our page, our merch store, all that fun stuff. OptimizeDrone.com. Booyah! Check out Jubal's YouTube. We posted it in the comments. It's One Wheel Whiz. All one word, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'll drop the link again.
All right. But yeah, guys, thanks for joining us on such short notice.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Had fun tonight. Thank you.